A little while ago, I had the chance to visit Hakone, a mountainous region about 1.5 hours outside Tokyo that offers many opportunities for hiking. Along one of the roads, I found a little tea house. It was very cute, hosted inside an old building. Nice, but perhaps nothing extraordinary. But when I talked to the owner, he mentioned the place had been founded in 1604, so during the early years of the Tokugawa period. And that ever since, this place had been in the hands of his family. So he is in fact the 13th generation successor of this small family business. I found it truly amazing that this place had been around for such a long time. But I also couldn't help but wonder whether it would be able to withstand the challenges of the 21st century. This is the DWIH Coffee Talk. I'm your host, Axel Karpenstein. And today we will talk about family business in changing times, drawing on examples from Japan as well as Germany, both countries being home to a large number of family businesses, and some with a history of many centuries. Over the next 60 minutes, we will discuss three main issues. We will talk about the nature and characteristics of family business in Japan and Germany, their similarities as well as differences. We will talk about the challenges of the 21st century that family business have to deal with. For example, competition from large companies, globalization, internationalization, digitalization, or the ization words, as well as the recent COVID-19 pandemic. And lastly, we will also take a look at what research can contribute to our understanding of family businesses and our understanding of the dynamics and developments of this sector of the economy. To help us with all these questions, we are very fortunate to have three experts on family business and international economics with us today. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Sigrun Caspary of the Witten Institute for Family Business, or WIFU, which is in fact Europe's largest research institute on family business. Also, Professor Toshio Goto of the Japan University of Economics, publisher of a white book, so to speak, on Japanese family businesses. And also Professor Masahiro Nagata of Reitaku University, which is in fact currently planning to open a new research institute on family business this year. Welcome to you all, and thank you very much for making time today.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you. It's our pleasure. A brief note to our viewers. If you want to get in touch with our guests, if you find their research, the things that they mentioned today interesting, please check out our website. Also, if you go to our website, you can find a link to the website Slido. You can use this website to post your questions to our guests today. In fact, some of you were already quick and posted some questions and early enough so that we can actually integrate them very easily in our talk today. I'd like to start with one question, and that is a puzzle on my part. When I was studying the Japanese economy at university many years ago, there was a lot of talk about the big Japanese firms, large firms, conglomerates, the Keidetsu or the pre-war Zaibatsu. And even today, I have the feeling that we hear fairly little about family businesses, at least in Japan. In Germany, I think there's more talk about the Mittelstand, as it's called, that comprises many family-run businesses. Professor Goto, perhaps I can start the question by addressing you. Is it just my imagination, or is there really very little talk about family businesses in Japan?
who will start?
Yes, we can hear you, Professor Goto. You can just speak.
Okay. The question is very simple, and the answer is very simple from my viewpoint. The research on family business started the first in the world in the United States in the 1950s, which was followed by European countries, including Germany. Japan is among the latest incomer. Back in 1950s or even in 1970s, when I was in the United States, nobody talked about good thing about family business, exactly the same way as we do here in Japan. So it's a historical issue. The factors accounting for that is the bad image prepared by the mass media.
That's very interesting. Yeah, but isn't it true that family business after the Second World War as well probably constituted the vast majority of firms?
Always in the history of Japan and the rest of the world, family business are the majority of all companies. As we may talk more in detail later on, based on the figure, but Japan, we have majority of the companies are family-owned or family-managed. You said about Zaibatsu. Yes, that is one part of the family businesses, big family businesses, which was affected by the United States. But putting it aside, still, majority of the majority of the companies existing in the world, whether it's developing countries or developed, situation is same. Some difference, of course, exists among the countries.
Yeah. Dr. Caspary, what would be your assessment of the situation in Germany? I mean, my impression is you hear quite a lot about the Mittelstand. Perhaps for our viewers, we might have to define what the Mittelstand actually is referring to. It's not just family businesses, but does it mean that family business is actually very central to our perception of the German economy?
Oh, thank you for this question. Definitely, yes. The family business is, maybe as in Japan, more than 90% of the businesses is run by family or owned by family or managed by a family member. But this, it consists only of roughly 50 or 60%. It depends a little bit on the definition of the employees. So the very big companies are maybe the blue chips, which are listed companies. But if you, as soon as you go out of this listed company segment, then the family business is really a large number. And maybe I admit one word to the word Mittelstand. In many statistics, Mittelstand is maybe listed as equal to family business. But this is not 100% true, because there are companies which is in the middle size, which are not family business, and there are larger companies which are family business. So it depends a little bit on the definition of family business.
Yeah, we get to that in a little bit. I remember when we all met 2 weeks ago to prepare for our talk, we discussed this very interesting issue that there are of course words to describe family-owned businesses in Japanese, but partly these are English loan words. It's very interesting that this concept has been, or it seems at least, has been neglected for some time. Professor Nagata, I talked to some of my colleagues actually while preparing for this talk, and we discussed the different words that are being used in Japanese for family-owned business. There's a word, dozoku egyo, I think, management by the same family, and my colleague said that this actually has some sort of negative connotation. Is that true? And if so, what would you say might be the reason for that?
In my view, in Japan, still there are some kind of a negative image about the family business. But my viewpoint is a little bit different from yours. I'm not concerned about the size, big or small, or catered or not, but rather, in my understanding, the world companies can be classified into two types. One is Anglo-Saxon type, and it means maybe originated from the East India companies. For them, companies are function groups that make money. The second group is maybe the Japanese or German type companies. For them, companies are in some sense extension of the village community. Therefore, the most important thing for them is a continuation rather than making money. Maybe the making money is secondary. A good example is Fujifilm Holding Corporation in Japan. Nowadays, it's very hard to find film at any store. If it were the US company, they will make it go bankrupt, scrap and build, maybe fire the employees and start a new company. But Fujifilm still exists, survive in Japan and initiating new businesses such as cosmetics or the fine chemicals. And under the name of film, they sell it. Not all, but most family businesses belong to the latter type, in my understanding. So maybe those two interact with each other or exist in even the 21st centuries. Yeah. But how their role changes very interesting topic for me.
That reminds me of things I heard in my economics classes, Japanese economics classes, that even in large Japanese companies, you know, your connection as an employee to the company is very strong. It's almost like a family. So is it actually that Germany and Japan, the families sort of the model behind these businesses, and this is in contrast to the United States, for example, or other countries? Professor Goto, what would you say?
Yes, I would say so, because Japan has a long history, which is based upon family and community in the local villages. But so is the case in Germany, in my understanding. One of the most favorite German language to me is Gemeinschaft. Gemeinschaft versus Gesellschaft. In my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong.
So community versus society, yeah.
Traditional society based upon, the emotion or, family tie or local community tie. Versus Gesellschaft means the market-oriented community or society. So this kind of difference used to exist both in Japan and Germany, but in the rest of the world, situation much in the pre-modern age was same, right?
Yeah.
So this is what I agree.
That's interesting. Dr. Caspary, what would you say? I'm thinking, although maybe people usually don't pay that much attention to it, but they're like in the United States, some of the very large companies are actually family-owned businesses like Walmart. Are there differences, significant differences between family businesses across countries, especially Japan, Germany on the one side, and maybe the Anglo-Saxon countries on the other side?
Yes, I would agree to this point, because one thing we always mention is that craft is something which is very important for a family business and to hand over to the next generation. So this is a very, very important point that the family business wants to trade or to hand over the wealth, the craft, the tradition from the past to the next generation. And this is a very, very important point when you define family business. And if you put the craft in the center, and how you are able to hand over this craft. This is kind of you do within a trust-related lineage, and this is the family. And craft is very much important for the German, and I think also for the Japanese society, And this is the reason why there are so many lasting family businesses in both countries.
Yeah, and yeah, this is a question I really wanted to come to today. When preparing for this talk, I took a look at a list of old and very old businesses, and Japan by far has the most. There are more than 20, I think, that are older than that were established before the year 1300 or 1400. In Germany too, there are many family-owned businesses that go back many centuries. So you would say it's the focus on the lineage. How can Japan and Germany manage actually to maintain the lineage, and why can other countries, for example, why is it more difficult there?
Maybe two aspects on that. The one is on you need to prove somehow that your business is as old as you say that it is. So if there is a fire or is a war or something like that, then you cannot prove how old your family business is. And the second point is definitely the lineage, the name of the family. You need to keep it, and the Japanese family system is one point to that. And if you go for German family businesses, somehow they change the name, or they change the name of the family business. Yeah, but even they have the same bloodline. Yeah, and this is some maybe Faber-Castell. Yeah, this is two families who have the name in
the pencil maker. Yes,
the pencil maker. Yeah, this is come out of two families, because there was one original, and then the second one married, and then they took both names. But for many Japanese, it was more important to keep the family name.
Also, the family business we have in Japan, they are mostly still under the same name as maybe 100 years or even 200, 300 years ago. Interesting.
May I?
No.
Yeah, Professor Goto, yes, please.
Better.
Let me answer to your question, Axel, in slightly different manner.
Yeah.
The family business in Japan seldom sell themselves out to other people. They try to keep the company for generations under its own family name. And they are very proud of having the name of the company based upon the name of the family. So they seldom change. While I did some comparative study of long-lived family businesses across national boundaries to find out in the other part of the world, the United States, Germany, or Italy included, I found among the long-lived family businesses in these countries, M&A took place some time ago for 50% of those long-lived family businesses. Yeah. So even though, what I'm saying is, even though the longevity is well over a century, but this longevity is not managed by a sole family. This is the question. This is the answer to your question.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So succession is important in both countries, but maybe the way businesses go about it differs slightly. Is that, am I reading that correctly?
I think that it depends upon the value to which family stick to. In Japan, continuity under the same family name is most important, while in the rest of the world, the money is more important. Sigrun may object to that, maybe have no objection to that, but this is the conclusion of my research.
Yeah.
Of course, the family business in Europe and the United States love their name and the continuity under their name. But when it comes to sell or not to sell, they sell.
This is a little bit a good point on who is running and managing the company. Yeah, and what is a family business? Again, let us come back to the definition. If you just run it with one family, and then you collect the money and then you sell it, and the business is there and the family is there, so you separate the ownership, then you still cannot call it a family business any longer. But the family business and the understanding of WIFU is definitely slightly different, because it is always transgenerational. Yeah, there must be a will in the family business to give the family the business in the hands of the family to the next generation. And maybe this separates our position a little bit from that, what you say, statistical data. If you say Mittelstand is a family business, this is not always true. Of course, there are some family business, but the Mittelstand, this has a different origin, a different historical development. And then, of course, to keep that, the legal, the social, and the cultural norms from the past to the next generation. I think this is important.
This is the central definition of a family run business, the succession that is passed from one generation to the next.
Yes, for the WIFU research, it is very important that you have a family business who has the will and voices the will to do so. Yeah, there are other family business, they just run the business and have one family, and then if there is enough money, they sell and keep the money in the family and go out of the business.
Professor Goto, I will get to you in a second. In the background, we're already getting very interesting questions. There are also some questions I'd like to ask Professor Nagata, but please respond first, yes.
This is exactly the point where we differed from our colleague in Germany. I received Sigrun and her colleagues from WIFU couple of years ago. That time, I showed lengthy list of long-living companies in Japan and the rest of the world. At a glimpse, the WIFU people said, this is not a family business because more than half of those long-lived companies in Germany is not under the influence of the founding family. From my viewpoint, the definition is what we have to discuss, but the family business is under the influence of a family, whether it's founded family or not, irrespective of, under the family. This is the key.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Don't get me right. There is a definition, of course, and this is the usual one we have. That the ownership must be in the hand of a family member or a small number of family members, or the management or the governance. So there is no difference on that, but we have a special focus on this part that we want to have at the transgenerational family business in our WIFU research. There's of course more research and more statistical data on Mittelstand, which is close to family business, but not 100%. So and we are not totally separate.
What she's talking is very narrow definition of family business under the founding family. I'm saying more wider definition is necessary, among which, in which we can differentiate a family business under the founding family and the rest.
Yeah, interesting.
It's very interesting discussion.
Okay, so there might be different definitions, a narrow one, a wider one. Let me pick two questions from our audience that I find very interesting. And I'm wondering, Professor Nagata, maybe you're in a good position to comment. One deals with the Japanese economy in general, or SMEs. There's also another one that is very interesting. Japan has a high inheritance tax. So how is it possible for businesses to move easily from one generation to the next? This is one question I found it very interesting.
Yeah, it's maybe one of the important points, and especially if they succeed the real estate, for instance. In that case, without selling that, they can't pay tax, inheritance tax. But maybe that system could be released or deregulated in some sense.
Yeah.
So it make son or daughters easy to succeed. So that's the current situation. May I ask one comment about the lifetime of the companies?
Yeah.
Yeah. For instance, many family businesses in Japan, the founder leave some philosophy write down. And in those philosophy, sometimes they say that don't pursue or don't stick the profit. Rather, what is important is a contribution to the society or the contribution of the community. So the succession, the continuation. So that is the nature of the community. That is a most important aspect of the family business, regardless it is located in Japan or the Germany or even the United States. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. There's another very interesting question about SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, and maybe I should precede it with the question comparing Japan and Germany. How many family-owned businesses actually fall under the category of small and medium-sized enterprises? Are there? I would imagine there are also probably some very large ones. I think in Germany, BMW, the car maker, isn't? I think it's a family-owned business. There's some others as well.
As I said in the beginning, there is some very big ones, and there are many small ones, and there are the very, very small ones, and therefore it is so difficult to have a definition on that. Yeah, if you go to the family business of the entire family number of the businesses in Germany, over 90% are owned by family, and I agree to the definition of Professor Goto on this. Yeah. And if you go to the employees, it's roughly 60% of the employees who are employed by a family business. I think the number in Japan is slightly higher. Looking regarding to the turnover, it's over 50% of the turnover of German family businesses regarding to the overall businesses.
Yeah.
So there is an economic contribution which is not to be neglected. But somehow you need to be careful on the definition, because there is statistically different definition, for instance, for a European Union with regard to funding. So they have a slightly different definition on that. Yeah. Usually, what you find in the statistics is the definition of the Witten Institute for Mittelstandsforschung in Bonn. Yeah, and so they have the definition, and of course we follow to this definition in WIFU. Yeah, but when we have our research, we prefer the long living, the transgenerational companies. So we do not neglect the other definitions.
Professor Goto, since you're also familiar with family businesses in other countries in the world, are there structural differences, would you say, between Japanese family business or the structure of the Japanese family business sector compared to other countries? And maybe a second question that I'd like to ask Professor Nagata, whether there are maybe structural differences in small and medium-sized enterprises, which as a topic is slightly different from the family-owned businesses.
Before going to details, let me start with definition and some data to support it. Number one, in the academic society in the world, there are more than 20 different definitions about family business, but everybody agrees only one point. Family business is under the influence of the family. What kind of influence? There is difference. What kind of family? Difference. How much family influence? Different. But my definition based upon that the consensus in the world is any family business is any firm under the influence of a family, either as the executives, board member, or shareholders. Okay, that is the thing. Yeah. Starting with the definition, I found very interesting thing in Japan. Number one, we have in Japan, all over Japan, 2,600,000 companies listed or unlisted together. Among those companies, family business account for 96.9%. So majority is, right? Okay, this is for the all companies. Yeah. And family business employs 74.4%. For all workers in Japan, okay? So the majority of those family business are, of course, small to medium.
So that would be a higher percentage than in Germany, although the definition might be slightly different. Okay,
that's what I said. All right. That's what Sigrun said.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is for the all companies situation story in Japan.
Yeah.
But it includes big corporations such as Toyota. Now, focusing on listed companies side, the picture is somehow different because in Japan, the number of all listed companies in Japan is 3,800. So Japan has 3,800 listed companies, of which family business account for 52.9%. So, magnitude among listed company and magnitude among all company differs. But still, both tells the importance, magnitude of family businesses.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much. Professor Nagata, on the issue of small and medium-sized enterprises, would you be able to say whether there are structural differences between Japan and Germany or other countries for that matter?
Yeah, my major is international economics, especially the international trade. So I'd like to show some interesting aspect of the Japanese industrial structure. Especially the trade structure. And many people think that the Toyota, Panasonic, or Sony are superstars in the Japanese exports. But if you examine the Japanese export items, you will find a majority, or about 70% of consists of machinery, and about half of them are parts exports. Actually, the parts exports are approximately double of car exports, so it's a big one. Someone say that Japan is a lack of natural resources, but abundant with artificial resources, which is parts. And these products are mainly produced by small and medium-sized enterprises. And the parts are usually capital goods and not consumer goods. So they are not advertised. So ordinary people don't know the name of the company or the name of the items. But it's a very, strong competitiveness in a sense. Some of them have 70% or 80% of the world market share. And what is interesting is their rivals, competitors, they are not getting to that market.
Yeah. Because
they know that the market is so small that more than two companies can survive there. Cannot survive, sorry. For that reason, the company can enjoy the monopolistic profits. So in that sense, they are very, very strong.
Yeah.
But it does not necessarily mean that they are stable or safe, because the biggest threat to them is technological innovation. When the technological innovation happens, their demand will eliminate or disappear overnight. For instance, the shift from the internal combustion engine to electric vehicles can cause such kind of changes. So the size is not a disadvantage for them, but rather whether they can keep up the technical change. It's also itself is the lifeline for them. That's my view.
That's very interesting. That also relates actually to the second major issue that I'd like to discuss with you today. Family business is the 21st century. Are they adjusting to different economic circumstances? But before we get to that, Dr. Caspary, what would you say is the situation in Germany, if you can tell? Is this similar, that small and medium-sized enterprise, do they focus mainly on intermediate goods like parts that are used by other larger companies, for example?
Definitely, yes. It's very similar structure, but I would say that the size is maybe slightly larger than in Japan. In Japan, the number of the very, very small family businesses is quite large. And in Germany, this is the reason why we have the word Mittelstand in Germany, because this is the medium-sized companies who are in the intermediate, yes, area and to, for instance, in the car industry, and maybe they do not want to get listed. Yeah, so they have a different attitude toward risk management, and they want to be independent from other ownership structures, from stakeholders who are just interested in short-term profits. Yeah, and so they want to keep the money within themselves, because maybe it's an historical issue as well, because in the first decades of the 20th century there were so many losses due to capital crises or to share crises, and therefore there is a reluctance on to be listed. And so they keep a little bit out of this listed company issue. They do not want to become too big, because they become dependent on other stakeholders. Yeah? If you want to maintain your family business, you need to maintain the control, and you need to control, of course, the financial side better than and the employee side, and of course, maybe a little bit the social side and where you are, and this is where they focus on. And I totally agree that the community is a very, very important point, and decide on where you set up your business. And if you look at the numbers of employees, the non-listed family businesses, they had a larger contribution to increase the workforce in the past decade than the listed non-family companies. Yeah. Yes. So they, because of risk sharing, they set up the production side outside of Germany, but inside the family business, they had a larger contribution to maintain the workforce. And maybe the attitude towards the workforce is another aspect which is important for family business, which we should not miss here.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's very interesting. We had another interesting question, which I wanted to ask you all briefly, by a Japanese viewer who said that in Japan, the corporate tax for small and medium-sized enterprises is fairly high, but it's fairly low for large companies. Abroad, in Germany, I assume, for example, it's supposed to be the opposite. Is that so? And if so, how would you explain that? That there's such a marked contrast between taxation for large companies and small and medium-sized enterprises?
Who's going to answer this?
Yeah, who would like to? Dr. Caspary, do you want to?
This is a similar thing for Germany, and Germany, of course, has a large burden, which is voiced by family business, of the social contribution, of the obligations for employees on social contribution payments for insurances. Yeah, and this is very high, and so we lose a little bit the competition we have on the other side. So there's pros and cons on why to be a family business or why to be a medium-sized company or a small-sized companies. And the one is definitely, yes, the high tax burden, and the reason why the complaint is similar in Germany and in Japan.
Also, it's the same or similar in Germany, that taxation for smaller businesses. Okay.
So what support? I think there was beforehand a question, and I know whether there would be a policy. Yes, what the family business would love to have for a policy is that they leave us independent, and make a nice environment that we can have our freedom for do entrepreneurship like we do want to do that, and not to do it like the stakeholders and the shareholders want us to do. Yeah, so this is a little bit the question to the policymakers.
Yeah. Thank you. We've talked already about succession, and there was also a question from the audience about the age structure of the owners of family businesses in Germany and Japan. Professor Goto, can you comment on that? What's currently sort of the average age structure of family-run business owners?
I am not totally sure about what you're asking. You're asking about succession, But in what perspective are you asking succession?
About most people who own family businesses, are they older nowadays? Are we
aging.
at the age here? Are we at a point where there should be succession, and where it's a question whether it will happen, or are most of them already younger, sort of the next generation?
Let me again respond to your question based upon the data. I made research in the year of 2005 to find out the average age of the companies in Japan, to find out non-listed companies, majority of course family business, okay? The age, average age of that point was 59.1, this was the age, 59.1 years old. Interestingly, I traced backward for every 10 years. 10 years ago, the age was younger. Further, 20 years ago, younger. Back to the age, back to the year of 1964, I arrived to find out average age of the companies in Japan was 39 years old. Very young, isn't it?
It is,
see?
Yes.
So from 39 years to 59.1 years, step by step, gradually, the company's president got older. Now, this moment, so the average age of Japanese companies is well over 65, okay? Now, what is the average age of president or CEO in the world? According to the research in the United States, average age of CEO over the world is 53 years. So 53 versus 65, significant difference. That's it. However, nowadays, there is polarization existing. Some companies had succession, including that situation under the coronavirus. I found many companies which had succession under this very adverse situation, to find out young generation is necessary to run the company under such kind of circumstances. So some companies getting a younger generation as a CEO, but quite a large portion of family business still stays with aged president. Do I answer your question?
Yes, yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you. Dr. Caspary, what's the situation in Germany? Is it similar?
Yes and no, but it depends a little bit. Family business is a diverse topic. So there are family business which, when they are relatively small or in a, let's say, type of patriarchal logic, yeah, then maybe the patriarch is very long in office and maybe hesitates to hand over to the next generation. Yeah, and there are family businesses who want to hand over early. Yeah, and where the patriarch or the founder or the elder generation wants to get out a little bit and have a more distant view on the family business. Yeah, so it depends a little bit the sector we are, on the business we are, yeah, if on the individuals, but and also on the family. If there is a plan to family succession, and this is what we do a little bit of some consulting when doing research. We are having an active research, let's say, consent that family business is very trust-related issue. Yeah, if in order to get out information from a family business, you need to know the family behind the business, and this is where we are interested in. How is the family composed? Yeah, who is the owner? How they deal with conflict? Yeah. Don't believe family business is without conflict. Of course,
I would imagine they need
to manage it somehow. Yeah, and so there are some businesses who say, okay, we leave that to the next generation. Yeah, because every generation, needs to define themselves, and they make a succession plan, and they make a succession plan on how and who and when, in order not to be, let's say, come into difficulties when there is a sudden crisis. And this is especially so with long-living companies. They know they need to have a succession plan in order to have a smooth transition. Maybe too long.
Would you say, is it in the 21st century now because of how internationalization is playing out, or I don't know, maybe younger people becoming even more independent than they were in the 20th century? Is it getting harder to assure the succession? Or is it the same problem that we had maybe 50 years ago or 100 years ago?
We have a change, you cannot deny. You have a change in a society, we have a change in work-life balance. No, but nevertheless, there are hard evidence, statistical data that reveal that even in this case, the family businesses regarding to work-life balances are the more attractive job offers. So young people who have a different opinion on maybe the elder generation, they do not want to have a 60 or 70 hour job week, hours a week job. They want to have more free time to share, and so of course they have a different understanding on how to manage. And this is something what every company needs to somehow take into account, even in Japan. This is the reason why a number of companies comes up with a succession plan, and this is what we advise to do so in a very early stage on when to talk to the successor, how to educate the successor, or maybe how to proceed with your core business, to stay with the core business, or to get out of different business models, and so on and so on. And this is what was extremely now. We have digitalization, a pressure for digitalization in this COVID-19 crisis and pandemic, and family business were very flexible and very immediate. We come back to your question on innovation. Yes, whenever they could do so. Of course, there is the bottleneck of resources, and the larger companies, of course, can invest more resources. And there is a very, very new thing what we are going to develop from now on, and this is on how to match, put it this way, startups with family business. And this is a very, very new issue in Germany. Yeah, I think in America maybe slightly different because of historical reasons, yes or no. I don't know exactly about how Japan is, but startups and German family business is still something which need to be matched. Some reluctance because of this long-term dimension or the view on the business. Yeah. Innovation, that's an essential point, or the question of how family business might be adjusting to the requirements or the challenges of the 21st century. You already mentioned digitalization. Professor Nagata, you mentioned before that it might actually be a strong point of family business or smaller companies, that they're more flexible, that they can adjust easier. Preparing for this talk, I read different articles. On the one hand, with large companies, you have economies of scale. You know, they're probably financially maybe more independent, at least some of them. At the same time, there seem to be distinct advantages for smaller businesses. Professor Nagata, what would be your assessment for the next years or the next decades? Is it a time where smaller businesses, I'm mixing a little bit here, SMEs and family business, of course, they're bigger ones as well, but where there's a distinct advantage for smaller companies?
As I explained, the size itself, the smaller size does not necessarily mean that they are disadvantaged. Rather, in some cases, in a changing age as a 21st century, they can easily change their course. And so in that sense, it is more flexible and can become an advantage. But at the same time, as I said, the scale is sometimes important for business, especially human network, the network between the companies, because they need information about many things, policy change, technical change, or the behavior of the competitors. So maybe it's a related previous question about the business succession. I'm an educator in some sense, in a way, at the university. From my experience, apart from the family business, what is important for young people is a hope for the vision for the future. Without that, if they have such concrete vision, they're excited and maybe they improve their ability or make an enormous effort to do that. So in my view, the frontier for family business is an international alliance. Mm. So if they go to the other countries, for instance, the Japanese company, sons or daughters go to the United States or Germany and learn what's going on there and make a human network, it stimulates them, in my understanding. Or the vice versa, the German companies will visit our company. So it make some, because of that encounter, they will make some alliance or contract or something. And it's a big frontier.
Yeah. One thing that I'm taking out of this talk is that there's really a large role for the next generation to be educated, to a role for consulting, maybe also on part of your institutes or research being done on family businesses about how succession or changing to the environment should happen. Professor Nagata, you mentioned the issue of information, how companies obtain information. There's another related issue maybe about research and development. How does this play out with family businesses in Germany and Japan, especially the smaller ones? Because I think there maybe the fact that they are small, that they can't do that much research in-house might be difficult. Do they work closely with external partners, universities, for example, or?
Yeah. Maybe that is one of the reasons why we established a new research institute for family business. Of course, there are a lot of academic questions about the family business, but we try to focus on the more pragmatic aspect, including business succession. So if we want to be some intermediate between, for instance, the German companies or Japanese companies, and if the young people meet and discuss, that itself will stimulate their behavior. And that is one of the important function of our institute.
Yeah. I remember, I think there was also a publication by a Japanese research institute on economics from maybe 10 years ago that also evaluated university industry cooperation. And I think it was also very clear there that a lot of smaller companies tend to cooperate a lot with universities in order, I think, to obtain research results or to outsource research.
Especially for scientific or engineering field, that is very common.
Yeah.
Some university got a research fund from the government and with corporations, medium-sized or small-sized companies. They make new products or technology they invent. So that's a very important function in our economy.
Now, one challenge that we haven't talked about yet is the COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, smaller companies have been very hard hit in many countries, Germany, Japan as well. How would you say German and Japanese family businesses are dealing with the current situation? Can they recover from the setback? Are they using it as an opportunity? Yes, Professor Goto, as an opportunity to transform.
I can answer to your question based upon the research which I conducted back last year, how family business, especially long-lived family businesses, responded to coronavirus, to find out two major surprising facts. Number one, they are doing much better than the rest of the companies.
Really?
Because of the past accumulation of profits. So they have a high liquidity at hand. This is one finding. Number two, yes, very interesting. And the second finding, which was very interesting to me, is those long-lived family businesses are cooperating with neighboring companies communities to support the resilience as a community. So they are saying, I do not survive by myself alone. I do survive together with our colleagues in the community. So this is what I found, to my pleasure.
Yeah, that is very interesting, actually. And
so
it shows.
The answer to your question is, if any company do this kind of way of supporting each other, they can get the resilience much quicker. And also, my fundamental question to myself is, what is capitalism in post-corona?
Yeah.
Post-corona capitalism, I'm talking of capitalism 4.0. Again, back to this book, which was written by German, Gemeinschaft versus Gesellschaft. This was written in 1884. I'm answering to my question saying, post-corona society is more toward Gemeinschaft, which means more attractiveness will be with family business.
It sounds like it's actually a business model, the family-run business that might be very stable, or might be a good model for the future, or to cope with challenges and with crises. Dr. Caspary, would you agree also from the perspective of Germany?
Definitely, yes. We had one of our professors, Professor Klaus, who conducted a similar research and had the similar findings, that the first point what the family business did, that they did better, they secured liquidity. This is the first point, liquidity. And then they kept the employees more than the non-family businesses. So they were keen on keeping the employees, the knowledge within, not laying off people. So this is the other finding. And then, of course, there might be a more quicker adaptation of business models, going more into online business or digitalization as soon as possible, and to define very clearly what the core business is. And again, come back to my point of the craft. The craft is most important for the family, be it the development of a car. Go for PH, he was an excellent engineer. Or even Winterkorn is an excellent engineer. So this engineering is important. So this F&E is important. Yes, this is the core business. As long as it is the core business, this is important for the family business. And this is what they did in the crisis. They kept the core business and they kept the family together and showed resilience. It's a very similar finding.
Yeah. I think we've been able today to touch upon a lot of topics that also seem to lend itself to very interesting research. We've talked about resilience now, adjusting to crises, to changing environments. We've talked about the structure of businesses. Now you're all involved with family businesses. Reitaku University, Professor Nagata, you're establishing actually a new institute. Professor Goto, I think you're this year about to publish the third version of the white book on Japanese family businesses. Is it already published, or when is it?
No, we are going to. This is the second version which I have here, and we are going to, or we aim to publish the third one in the autumn of this year to expand it. Yes.
And this you're publishing, I think, every 2 or every 3 years a new book, more or less?
Every 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Right.
This is a very exciting time. And Dr. Caspary, WIFU, we mentioned it at the onset, is also in fact, the largest European institute for family businesses. Now, we're slowly coming to the end of our talk today, but from your perspective of researchers on family business or on economics, what kind of open questions still need to be addressed? What are things that where research can actually contribute?
Oh, there are very many things, and what we do together is to do research with Reitaku University and Japan University of Economics, is to do research on narratives, which is a very new project we are setting up now. And another one is a research on rituals, this is something what it's very new, but there are so many
rituals. You mean rituals involved in
daily business and
really?
in petition and handing over the company. Yeah, so there is the idea that those family business will keep the rituals perform better. This at least was one thesis or one thing which we discussed with Reitaku University a couple of days ago. Yeah, so this is maybe a new aspect, but there are very many other aspects for family business. Education is one. Yeah, how to educate the next generation. Yeah, when to tell, how to tell, and so on. Governance, how to educate the larger family if they are and not involved hands-on. Yeah, so there are many aspects. Yeah.
That is fascinating. Thank you so much. Would you, Professor Nagata, Professor Goto, would you like to add anything else that big questions that still need to be addressed by research on family business over the next years?
Maybe one more.
Intercultural is very important.
Intercultural.
Oh, yeah. Professor Nagata also mentioned that international cooperation. That's true. I would also imagine that to be an important topic. Professor Goto, yes?
I say key factors for longevity. This is exactly what every family business is seeking for. We have to answer that.
And I'm looking forward to your research since you've been dealing with this topic for many years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Count on me.
Professor Nagata, would you like to have the final word? Questions?
A few words is maybe there is a myth that the medium-sized small companies or the family business is weak and should be protected. But that is not necessarily the case. One of my colleagues, Professor Kondo, who used to work as an executive of his family business, said that sometimes government protection is counter-effective. So if they expose to the international competition, maybe it strengthens. So of course it varies depending on the situation. But what is hope in front of us is in one side, we cooperate with each other, as Professor Goto said, but at the same time, it is inevitable to compete with each other. We can't become strong without avoiding that. So that's my point, and I would like to do my best to develop our institute for the society of Japanese society as well as the Japanese family business. Yeah,
I think this is a very nice note to conclude our talk today. Thank you all very much for your time today. I, for one, have certainly learned a lot about a part of economics that so far I have not paid much attention to, but I will certainly do that more in the future. Thanks also everyone for watching today. If you want to get in touch with our guests today, please check out our website. You can find all the relevant information there. We see each other again on the 1st of June. This time again on the first Tuesday of the month. You can mark your calendars for our next talk, which will focus on the ethics of artificial intelligence, a different but also a very pertinent and very important topic. If you want to leave feedback for us, there's a link on our website. As usual, we appreciate your feedback in order to work on our on the topics or find new and interesting topics. Also, please check out our website, our social media channels for news and events on upcoming events. And if you care, also please subscribe to our newsletter to stay abreast on research and innovation news from Germany and Japan. Thank you all very much and see you at the next coffee talk.
Yeah.